Reform is on a roll. We're booming. Numbers are up. Polls are looking good. I intend to start the new year with a bang. I'm doing big regional conferences in the East Midlands, the Northwest, the East of England, and the Southeast. The dates will be the 3rd of January, the 4th of January, the 10th of January, and the 11th of January. If you're within that vicinity, if you want to come along to an energetic Reform UK conference as we get ready for the county council elections that are due to happen on the 1st of May next year, you want to get involved, you want to be an activist, you want to think about becoming a candidate, you want to come along, join the party and find what we're all about, I promise you, we are not messing. We intend to win the next general election. Those elections on May the 1st are really our big step to begin. So please, click the link, come and join us.
Nigel Farage's declaration not only showcases the growing momentum of Reform UK, but also serves as a scathing critique of Kier Storer and the Labour Party's stagnant leadership. While Farage lays out an ambitious plan for regional conferences and grassroots mobilization, Storer and his Labour colleagues continue to flounder, bogged down by uninspiring policies and a lack of vision. Farage's confidence in Reform UK's trajectory sharply contrasts with Labour's inability to excite or engage the electorate, as they appear more focused on internal squabbles and appeasing a narrow elite than addressing the real concerns of the British people. Farage's speech implicitly mocks Labour's hollow promises and lack of dynamism, while Storer flip-flops on key issues. Farage makes bold declarations about Reform UK's intent to win not just the county council elections, but the next general election. His statement, "We are not messing," is a direct jab at the indecision and mediocrity that has come to define Stormer's leadership. Labour's so-called opposition offers little more than virtue signalling and pandering, leaving a vacuum for Farage to exploit with a party that exudes energy and direction. The contrast could not be starker. Reform UK is building momentum, reaching out to activists and potential candidates, and organising dynamic regional conferences, while Labour remains mired in irrelevance, offering platitudes instead of solutions. Farage's call to action resonates with those fed up with Stormer's uninspiring and detached approach. Labour under Storer appears to be the very embodiment of political inertia, a party too timid to challenge the establishment and too out of touch to represent ordinary voters. Farage's plan to dominate the May 1st elections is a rallying cry for those disillusioned with Labour's failure to capitalise on public discontent. Reform UK, in Farage's words, is on a mission to disrupt and win, while Labour continues to stumble, proving itself unfit to lead. Farage's message is clear: the future of British politics does not lie with the dithering Storer or his outdated Labour Party, but with a Reform UK that is unapologetically bold, ambitious, and ready to fight. Now let's move on to the next news.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yang Tembo is the alleged Chinese spy who's been stalking the corridors of power in our country and rubbing shoulders with royalty, prime ministers and business leaders. Yet his name has been withheld from the great British public. Does the Minister agree with me that it was only withheld to avoid embarrassment of previous prime ministers, business leaders, and was not in the best interests of the British public?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the honourable member will acknowledge that I named H6, the individual, that the reason for his initial anonymity was as a result of a court order and was not a decision by the UK government.
The exchange between Lee Anderson and Jeremy Hunt in Parliament highlights a critical issue concerning transparency, national security, and public trust. Anderson's pointed question about Jeremy Hunt, the alleged Chinese spy, underscores a deep frustration with what appears to be a lack of accountability and openness. By suggesting that the individual's name was withheld to protect the reputations of former prime ministers and business leaders rather than to serve the interests of the British public, Anderson raises serious concerns about the government's priorities and its handling of sensitive national security matters. His accusation implies that political and economic elites may have placed their own image above the public's right to know, further eroding trust in the political system. Jeremy Hunt's response, however, seeks to deflect blame from the government by citing a court order as the reason for the individual's initial anonymity. While this explanation may be legally valid, it comes across as a technical defense that sidesteps the broader question of whether more could have been done to inform and protect the public. Hunt's phrasing, particularly his emphasis on the court's role, suggests an attempt to distance the government from any perception of wrongdoing, but it does little to address the underlying concerns about transparency and accountability. The debate also raises broader questions about how the UK manages national security threats and balances them with the public's right to information. If Jeremy Hunt indeed had significant access to influential figures and institutions, the lack of transparency about his identity and activities could be seen as a failure to uphold national security standards. Furthermore, the public perception of favoritism or protectionism for the elite could deepen cynicism about the motivations of those in power. This exchange ultimately underscores the need for a clearer, more proactive approach to national security communication. While legal constraints such as court orders must be respected, they should not be used as a shield to obscure critical information from the public. If the government wishes to maintain credibility and public trust, it must ensure that its decisions prioritize the safety and interests of the British people over the reputational concerns of political and business elites.
I asked you a couple of times and you have just skirted around it. I did ask, would you like to take this opportunity to say sorry to the pensioners who feel hurt and less well off, certainly not better off, because you've taken away their winter fuel allowance? Would you like to say sorry?
The people who should be saying sorry are the last government who left a hole of £22 billion. And they should be sorry for that. They should apologise for that.
So you're not going to apologise?
I've come in to fix the mess, fix the problems, and that's tough, really tough decision. The cost of not doing it is to run the risk that we lose control of the economy again.
Kier Stoner's response to Susanna Reid's question about apologizing to pensioners is a masterclass in political deflection and insensitivity. Rather than addressing the genuine hardships faced by elderly citizens who lost their winter fuel allowance, he shifts the blame to previous governments, avoiding any accountability for the impact of his party's policies. Starmer's refusal to even acknowledge the suffering caused by this decision shows a lack of empathy and a deeper failure of leadership. Pensioners struggling to heat their homes deserve more than excuses. They deserve answers and respect, neither of which Starmer was willing to offer. By invoking the excuse of tough decisions, Starmer attempts to justify the harm inflicted on some of the most vulnerable members of society. His claim that such sacrifices are necessary to prevent economic instability reveals a cold and calculated approach that dismisses the real human consequences of these policies. The suggestion that pensioners are collateral damage in his broader economic vision is both insulting and emblematic of a leader disconnected from the very people he purports to represent. Starmer's inability to show regret or even feign concern further underscores the hollowness of his leadership. His rhetoric about fairness and justice is revealed as mere political posturing when confronted with real-world consequences. Instead of taking responsibility or proposing solutions, he opts to blame others, highlighting a pattern of avoidance that many find deeply frustrating. This response was more than a failure of policy. It was a failure of character. Starmer's lack of empathy and accountability sends a clear message to pensioners and others affected by his party's decisions. Their struggles are secondary to political calculations. If this is the leadership Labour offers, it's no wonder many see it as out of touch, unprincipled, and unworthy of the trust of ordinary people. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or opinions, feel free to share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more updates, and join us on Telegram for exclusive content and discussions. Your support means a lot.